There is something that I just have to get out of the way. Every time I hear or listen to this particular passage from Mark's Gospel, I get kind of irritated. You probably can see where this is going, but it's really not helpful because actually this passage, the whole of this passage, has a whole lot to teach us about healing. But here goes. So Jesus and the guys are going over to Simon and Andrew's house, and en route, Simon says, Jesus, my mother-in-law's really sick. Can you please take a look at her? Jesus says, sure. He gets over there. He not only takes a look at her, he cures her. And then she immediately gets out of bed and starts serving them. Really? Really? I mean, I could see Jesus staying put. I mean, he's just done some major work, but the other guys, certainly Simon and Andrew, it was their house after all, could have gotten up and helped. I mean, this woman had been really, really sick. And, of course, it's another time, another place, another culture. And so, in all fairness, this woman got up and just did what she would normally do, which was to serve. And there's grace to that. She was doing what she would normally do. But there's also, even within this beginning passage, maybe a more subtle message in here as well. In Scripture, people of significance, especially women, are always named. So you have Mary, mother of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Phoebe, early follower of Jesus, and so on. In this case, this woman, apart from being identified as Peter's mother-in-law, is not named. She would not be considered a significant person, and there's no sense that we will ever hear about her or from her again. She's just one of many people that Jesus cured, although I want to suggest also healed, in that she was restored, and I'll talk more about that shortly, over the course of his time on earth. And here's why that's important. Healing someone, a woman no less, a woman of no great importance or status, signifies a radical change in the emphasis and inclusion of Jesus's message and actions. His healing touch was not and is not only applicable to the important, the significant, the just, the deserving. It wasn't even limited to the Jewish people, which caused quite a bit of consternation around some. Then when we go even deeper into the passage, we see that this healing is not about perfection. It's about unlimited access. We are told that after sundown, people brought all the people that were sick and suffering from demons. And Jesus cured many. It's an interesting choice of words when you think about it. Apparently, not all were cured. But I want to suggest that just because they weren't cured doesn't mean that on some level they weren't healed. It's hard to imagine looking into Jesus' eyes or being next to him, even for a short period of time, that somehow we would not be healed in some way. So quite simply, being cured and being healed aren't always the same thing. Let's say two people have the same kind of cancer. One person dies, one person lives. Who is healed? It's a good question. So what then is healing in this particular context? Well, it is about the abundant life that we heard spoken of in today's colic. It is to be made well, whole, restored on a soul level. And as followers of Jesus, it's important for us to remember this as we seek to proclaim by prayer and word and action this abundant life promised us, promised all people. No hesitation there whatsoever. No one is turned away, is in and with Jesus. Which means it's not necessarily about the results, at least in terms of how we think of results, as frustrating as that can be. It is about being faithful followers of Jesus. The results, whatever they may be, are by and large in God's hands, and we're not the determining factors more often than not. So a story. Several years ago, I was asked to speak at the cathedral one night. It was a really, really rainy night, and so I got there, and in fact, I was wondering if anybody had actually come, because San Diegans are notoriously rain adverse. So while I was waiting for the event to start, a woman came up to me. I was up in the Great Hall, which is on the second floor, and she said there was a homeless man downstairs who was asking if a priest could give him a blessing, and she asked if I would go down there, and I said yes, of course. So I followed her down, and there was this man who was huddled under the eaves in order to try and get dry. He was dirty, he was disheveled, he was mumbling incoherently to himself. And to his side were a couple women from the cathedral who were on their phones trying to find him a dry place to sleep for the night. I approached him, knelt down, introduced myself, asked him his name, and then he said, "Please bless me. I need God's help." So I blessed, I prayed, and anointed him, and he then closed his eyes and said, "Thank you." At that point, the woman who had brought me down was motioning for me to go back upstairs because the event was now about ready to start. And I was going up the stairs to the Great Hall, and I kept on thinking how inadequate I felt. That maybe I should have stayed there with him and stayed there with the women. I don't know what I would have done, but I just felt like it wasn't enough. After the event was over, the woman came up to me to let me know that they had been able to find, I don't know how, but they were able to find someplace dry for him to sleep and got him some blankets. But she wanted to let me know that after I left, he started tearing up, and he said that he didn't think anybody from the church, a priest, would ever bless him for whatever reason. And that he knew because he had gotten blessed that God still loved him. Was he cured in the sense that he was no longer homeless or mentally ill? No. Was he healed? Yeah, I think so. If even for a moment he really felt that God still loved him, and while I hope it was longer than a moment is a really good place to start sometimes. It was a good lesson, and it is a good lesson for me, but actually for all of us, to remember our call as followers of Jesus is to be faithful instruments of God's healing presence in the world, a healing extended to all, whatever form it may take. No more than that, no less than that. What an amazing, amazing privilege we've been given. Which also means it's not about us. It's not about how successful we think we may be, or whatever form the healing takes that may look different than we thought it should. It can be a tough reality for those of us in this results-driven world. However, in order to be this healing presence in the world, perhaps this is the healing we need, to focus on Jesus instead of ourselves. Allow Jesus to heal us, maybe heal our ego needs, and help us put our sacred call into perspective. One of my great mentors in the church, the Reverend Dr. David Lewis, who I know I've quoted before, but he said this, and I have found it so helpful. We so often can focus on who we've missed, what we're not doing, where we've fallen short, where it might help tremendously, instead to focus on and draw strength from who we've reached, what we've accomplished, and what we have moved more fully into the calling we've received from God. And when we put all of this together, I can't help but think that chances are Peter's mother-in-law got it right all along.